Hello, University Bookstore and University Bookstore readers. Thanks for sending questions in for this Q&A that I'm doing for this store. You'll also notice that there's probably going to be a link here on the video. You can order books. You can order Amulet books, and I'll actually go to the store. I'll draw on them and personalize them to who you want them made out to. So if you like this video, or if you don't have the books yet and you'd like to get a copy, order from University Bookstore. Like I said, link is probably here somewhere, and then I'll draw for you guys. All right. So I'm going to answer some questions that were sent in. I wasn't able to do an event at the store, so we're going to do this instead. And thank you again for sending these questions, and we'll begin with a question from Ann Toole, and she asks, are you still editing the Explorer and Flight anthologies, and how can one get involved? I'm currently not editing any anthologies right now, so I'm not editing Flight, I'm not editing Explorer, but I may come back to it sometime in the near future. I'm currently focused on just finishing the Amulet series, raising my family, and being with my kids and my wife. That's just been my priority at the moment. The kids are getting older, though. I could imagine taking on a few other projects in the future. Perhaps editing an anthology will be one of them. All right. And how can one get involved? If that happens, you would just submit the content to me or to whoever else is editing the project. Okay. Shashan Kamani asks, if it's okay, I would like to ask whether Mr. Kibuishi likes to portray his own ideas of the book or that which may be asked of him or referred to in the books while illustrating. I write Amulet as well as draw it, and so I feel mostly like I am following my characters. So I'll do what the characters feel like they should do. I love working on contract projects, other projects like doing the Harry Potter covers, which I painted the covers for Harry Potter. You know, this project was fantastic to work on, and I love being able to do things like this outside of Amulet. But Amulet takes up so much of my time and so much of my focus, so I have to remain focused on it. And so as much as I enjoy doing other projects, as much as I enjoy being asked to be a part of other things, I really do have to stay focused on the books. I really don't have time for anything else. All right. So, and as far as ideas in the books, you know, sometimes readers will ask very interesting questions that actually end up leading me down roads in the story that it opens up doors that I didn't know were there. And so I do listen to the readers when they ask these questions about the story, especially the ones that feel really invested in it. I really want to listen to them and make sure that the story plays out with the feeling that the characters are being genuine. So I do listen to suggestions sometimes. So Tito W. James asks, when developing a series like Amulet, is it smart to create a self-contained pitch piece or mapping things out over multiple volumes? What is wisest for pitching to publishers? All right, so when developing a series like Amulet, it's mostly research. That's a lot of the work that I do. As far as pitching it, when I pitched Amulet, I didn't know I was going on this big journey. I didn't know it was going to be Amulet as you know it, as I know it now. I thought it was just going to be one book. I was going to be done, and then I was going to move on to the next thing. And so when I pitched it, it was only 6 pages of content that I didn't actually put in the final book. I had two paragraph synopsis, and you can read about it on my website at boltcityproductions.com/amulet. And you'll find out what that pitch package looks like. So you can go check it out right now if you want. And so I showed that to the publishers, both Scholastic and Simon & Schuster, I believe, and they ended up trying to bid for the book. Now a lot of this was organized by my agent, Judy Hansen, and so she really ended up putting it in what I feel is the best home for the book, and that's at Scholastic. And so I've been with Scholastic for a long time now. I believe I signed my contract in 2005. So what is wisest for pitching to publishers? I think it really depends on the publisher, depends on what they're looking for, and depends on the content that you're creating. You should show them what you plan to do. You should show them you have confidence in the project that you're about to work on, and that you have a plan for finishing it. If you can show that you can finish a project, I think there are going to be many publishers that want to work with you, especially if it's something that readers do want to read. All right. So SD Sinor asks, my daughter, almost 9 years old, is wondering how you came up with the idea for Amulet. Was it imagined in pieces over time? Did it evolve? Was it inspired by other art? Thanks. Our whole family cannot wait for the conclusion. All right, so was Amulet imagined in pieces over time? I guess you could say that's true. I think I did imagine it in different pieces, though I did see the overall frame of the story. I sort of see it as a rubber band that has expanded over time, that I've added to this rubber band, and now it's like contained more things than I ever imagined it would. So that's how it evolved. It evolved by growing, but we're gonna find our way to the same ending I always imagined at the very, very beginning of this project. And it's something that I told my assistant, my publisher. They know what I had planned for the ending, and I even showed them sketches for what I planned to do. And everyone thinks it seems to make sense. So we'll be getting there very soon in the story. So was it inspired by other art? I was very inspired by Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind. Now I read this when I was in college, and I really wanted to make something like this when I got older. So I also read Bone by Jeff Smith. So these two stories really had a big impact on me, and so I was inspired by the work of Hayao Miyazaki and Jeff Smith, and so Amulet does feel a bit like the works of those two artists right there, and they're very influenced by the work of a lot of animators and cartoonists who animated as well. And so the work in Amulet does have a kind of an animation feel to it. All right. Let's see. Ian Banks asks, what do you do to refresh, inspire yourself when you hit a wall? Well, I just try to be inspired by nearly everything. I might watch a sporting event. I may go and play sports, hang out with my kids. I hang out with a lot of friends who have small businesses like a bike shop or a bookstore. I just like hanging out with people and just being around. And then all of a sudden, automatically, through the process of whether it's washing dishes or riding a bike or just going out to the store, you may come upon an idea through the process of just being part of life. So that's what I do. I just try to keep my antennas out, see what I could collect that would make its way into the book in a way that I think when readers read it, they'd find some value in it. And I'm also speaking with my wife, Amy, a lot of the times. And she works with me we throw ideas back and forth with each other about how books are read, why we're doing it, the kinds of stories we want to make. And she's also a writer herself. And so we have lots of different perspectives in this house, because like my kids are also artists too, so they could read the books and give me notes if they wanted to. All right. So Fern asks, if it's fine by you, sir, would we also ever see the initial manuscripts for every book? Some pictures of the manuscripts actually came by. I actually came by on pure chance, and it was always so interesting to learn on how a book could have gone. Well, I don't show a lot of the stuff that I scrap because I scrapped it for a reason. But I suppose we'll consider putting together a book about the making of Amulet, and you'll see a lot of the different scrapped scenes that didn't make it into the final. So I actually scrap a lot of work. I mean, Amulet 9 has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of content that that I've already done. And I don't think it's going to be in the final book. A lot of it's not going to be there. So I wouldn't say hundreds, maybe a couple hundred pages is what I'm saying for Amulet 9 so far. But every book requires a ton of material that I end up throwing away. And someday I may put some of it into a making of book where you could see, and I'll explain why I would decide to cut something out. And usually, and if you're a writer out there, this might be helpful. Usually the reason why I would cut a scene is because it doesn't seem true to character. If a character does something that seems out of character, I scrap it. All right, so another question from Fern. Initially, the series had a firm genre of fantasy, but I always felt like the sudden change to sci-fi in book 7 to be incredibly jarring. I didn't enjoy it much, but may I ask what prompted the sudden change? So, I like sci-fi. I always intended this to be a sci-fi story. I even told my assistant Jason that that's where we would eventually be. And though it doesn't seem like it, this book always had elements of sci-fi. I mean, considering that you had the robots in there to begin with. So you have a lot of technology mixing with fantasy. I really just enjoy mixing the future with the past. And because I feel like what we're writing, when we write stories in this frame, we are talking about the future. We are talking about the past. So why not visually represent it in some way? And so I always have the fusion of the two. So this book series was always going to be a sci-fi book at the end. So, second question is, what do you mindlessly doodle when you're bored? I don't know, if I do any mindless doodling, it's probably a bunch of cubes. I will draw a bunch of squares, these cubes that just float around in space, and it gives my brain a chance to practice drawing things in 3 dimensions. And so it's like turning my brain into a 3D art program. So cubes, that's probably what I would end up drawing mindlessly. What advice do you have for kids who want to be artists when they grow up? Well, the best advice I can give any artist is that you have to have a vision for not just the work you're going to do, but for for yourself as well, your career, and for the long arc and the long trajectory of the career that you're going to have. And by vision, I mean being able to see a few steps farther than just the steps in front of you, seeing things beyond the immediate, being able to see the forest from the trees, knowing that you're in the forest while you're moving through the trees. And in order to do that, I recommend people to pace themselves well and figure out a good pace for their workflow, the life that they want to lead. And so you'll just constantly be making your way through the forest. A lot of artists react to negative feedback early on. Maybe they see that they're not as good as they thought they were themselves, and they'll stop working because they don't think they're going to get better. But the truth is, it only requires a commitment of your time and energy to get better at pretty much anything. And so if you have a vision for yourself to be able to create the kind of things that you would like to see in this world, just commit to it and you'll eventually get there. And it's going to be a difficult and painful process, and a lot of people aren't going to understand what you're doing. But if you commit long enough, you'll see the fruits of your labor and your decision and your commitment. So I would just say, be able to have a vision for yourself in the future. Try to meet that vision when you can, and just keep moving forward despite what people say. Okay? So just don't give up is what I'm saying. And I think that concludes the questions, the Q&A for University Bookstore. They're located in Seattle, in the University District, one of my favorite stores in the area. They've been very supportive of me for years and years. And so I'd love to be able to give back to them. So please support them. Maybe subscribe to their YouTube. You could purchase books from them. They have anything you'd ever want. And if you purchase any of my books, I will go to the store and personalize and draw a picture for you guys and sign it. before they get it to you. So thank you very much, and this was enjoyable. I hope you guys have a good summer, and I'll see you guys at the bookstore. All right.